My name's Suzanne, and we often take our household objects for granted, and we think they don't notice, but they do. Ode to a Sponge. Here I sit in my dark, claustrophobic, disgusting little hovel, forgotten, unnoticed as usual. Here where the slime and the mold and the mildew flourish. So many germs I can see them multiplying, feel them close in around me, suffocating in their opulence. I'm parched, but I'm not sure if I'd prefer a drink to torturous thirst, for drinks are never free from suffering of other sorts. Totally unappreciated, I lie here a misused slave, oppressed by thirst and immobile. I'm only here for their convenience, like a brick in one of their houses, or a toothpick in one of their boxes. All for them. That's all they think about. That's all they care about. That's all they think exists. I am for them. More brown now than pink, and shriveled and distorted in shape and texture. Sometimes I am so dry that I'm sure I will crack, but it is always at these times that they come along and give me a drink. I bless them at first, so grateful to be relieved at last, to be engorged with life-giving water and feel reborn yet again. But it's a short euphoria of resurrection before the gulping orange poison is forced into my pores, choking me into breathless anguish, worse than the desert feeling through which I suffered a moment ago. I can't even suck the water around the poison for long because they mercilessly spread it all over every inch of my body. And you know how they do it. They squeeze me as they scrunch my front on my back and force my rectangular frame into a neck-cracking ball of my head bones, which each time they unfold me for a moment, I gasp for air desperately, only greeted by the noxious fumes of the orange slop. I become frantic for my life until I realize in my bitter misery that I don't have one. I will never be allowed to escape the misery that I suffer day after day. I'll outlive them all and be more mistreated than the most miserable and most wretched of them. Then they begin the blatant physical abuse, the abrasion. Back and forth, 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 across the rough surface coated with rougher refuse. My skin begins to peel. Sometimes it comes off in chunks. That is, it begins to, but that's not good enough for them, painful as it is. They must pull off my dangling pieces of naked pink flesh, sending sharp shrieks of agony from my soul into the ether. How they don't hear it, I'll never know. I suppose they feel themselves too important to worry about the insignificant screams of a sponge. They suppose that I don't feel pain because I can't bleed, that I don't have feelings because I can't see, or hear, or touch, or move. And this is the greatest pain of all. Of all the injustice they do me, this is the worst, the assumption that I don't feel, that I am here to serve them, which, depressingly, I am, that I deserve no respect, that after my slave torture is over, I am only fit to be tossed, not placed back in my miserable existence. And I know well that when they wear me out so that I am no longer of any use to them, they will dispose of me without a backward glance or a pang of guilt. And all I ever wanted was a little appreciation. That would wash away, pun intended, all my bitterness. Like the water they always drench me with to remove the poison after they abuse my skin, their one tinge of compassion. Part 2, the sponge finds love. It has happened. They abused me one time too many and saw fit to abandon me to the pit of odoriferous doom. If germs suffocated me in my jail, they now dress my every pore. Such stink! I never would have thought it possible. And the slime I am now covered with, and darkness. I've never experienced such darkness. I suppose this is what they call hell, so they say it is more miserable than life, and my life was more miserable than any of theirs. I'm moving, a sensation I've never felt without the onset of human hands, and falling, 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 covered with more and more and more muck, suffocated, bumping, bumping, moving and bumping, moving and bumping, and then I sense it, and then I feel it, and then I see it. Oh, I have never seen before. Actually, I haven't. So beautiful. Yellow and yellow. We are pressed together, ever so tightly against one another. The slime strangely pleasant. The friction much gentler than that imposed by them. It seems to glide in them at the same time. Such a pleasurable feeling. It is beautiful, the yellow. because I am beautiful. Pink. I've never seen such a pink as you, it said shyly, radiantly, seductively. Nor I such a yellow, I replied in much the same tone. We were glued together, quite literally, and we were happy. Happy! An emotion neither of us had ever felt before. Embraced by one another, unable to move, physically of course, but emotionally too. For the first time in our lives, we didn't want to move at all. Just wanted to stay here, entranced by yellow. It wanted to stay here, entranced by pink. Yes, by me. Whatever moved us bumped too hard this time and bumped us off one another. The yellow slipped further down the muck away from me, most likely forever.